Hello, I'm Mark Geary, and I am the arbiter of all that is humorous. This is a podcast called You Think That's Funny. That is either a question or an accusation, depending on your approach to it. For matters discussed in this issue, please go to youthinkthat'sfunnypodcast.com, where you will find links relating to the things we discuss. On this week's show, we have Brigid Ronan. Let me give you a quick internet bio of Brigid Ronan. Brigid was born near Chicago in the late 1900s. Her humor writing has appeared in McSweeney's Internet Tendency. She studied theater at Vanderbilt University and received an MFA in creative nonfiction at Oregon State University. She currently lives and works in New York, New York. Hello, Brigid.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Great. And just a quick disclosure for those listening. I have known Brigid now for over 7 years and met through her late lamented brother, Dan, who was a genius cast member here at the Lincoln Lodge. How are we doing, Brigid?
Doing great, Mark. Very excited to talk about what I think is funny with you. And you said what match are we?
Sorry, I forgot the match. So we are an 80% humor match. So we're pretty much in sync. Sorry, yes.
Pretty good. It's okay. I just really wanted that number established up front.
We want that out there for it's kind of a badge of honor, right? To humor match with Mark Geary.
I need to know about this 20% that I'm missing out on.
We'll get to the 20 then. We'll get to the 20. It's a high match, I'll say that. Alrighty, cool.
All right.
So we're going to skip merrily through your things that are funny. I'm going to set up the first one. Actually, no, you can set up the first one. Movie sequel titles. What's funny about them to Brigid Ronan?
So movie sequel titles have long been a favorite of mine. I would say if I could have a dream job scenario, it would be writing movie sequel titles. That would be the job exclusively. I wouldn't have anything else to do with the movie. They would just send me the specs and say, I need, 10 to 20 sequel title ideas by the end of the day. And that would be the whole job. So I've always been a fan of kind of the range you get with movie sequel titles. You have kind of the straightforward, just add this to the end of the original title. I feel like there's a certain serene sort of confidence to that type of sequel title.
That's kind
Scream 2.
That's kind of like a very, I would say, a 70s, 80s thing though, right? Because they kind of stopped doing it. I was thinking when you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, they just used to throw a number on the end, blasé. Here it is.
Yeah. Please throw a number at the. Scream 2, of course, would be a classic. We also have Shrek 2 and Paddington 2 as more recent examples.
Yeah.
But then, in addition to just adding a 2 to the end of the title, we can go for just making the title plural. So best example of that would be Aliens, which is an incredible sequel. Or if you take the original title's adverb and make it a comparative adverb, like with Die Harder, that's a good one. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I like Dumb and Dumberer as well because it's just that's
perfect.
I
forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Just add an ER to the end or add an S, and you got your title.
Oh, what was the one? Oh, there was a tagline. It was more something, right? There was one that had that.
Oh, yeah. Taglines are fun, too. I feel like, with the dream job scenario, if I also could work on taglines, I would be open to that. But mostly the titles.
Huh.
In terms of, best sequel titles of all time, from a technical perspective, I would say it's hard to beat Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yes.
I think we'll always kind of be chasing that one. But my personal favorite would be Gremlins 2, The New Batch.
Well, that's a favorite film of mine.
Yeah.
Gremlins is my
Oh,
favorite ever film, and
oh,
Gremlins 2.
really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Gremlins for me is like the high. We should explain to our audience this is not something I know about you. You are absolutely avaricious in the watching and consuming of movies, right?
Yes, absolutely obsessed with movies. And was from a young age. I would say movies were really my first love in the arts. And my brother Dan and I were both just huge movie watchers growing up.
Yeah.
Gremlins was a big one for a while. I feel like as kids, we would get hooked on a movie and watch it every day for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't know why kids do that.
I had that compulsion as well from an early age. Like, the reason I love Gremlins is when I went to originally see it, it was on a double bill with Back to the Future because they both came out that
Oh,
same
wow.
Christmas, and so there's your dream double bill for a start, right? But
Yep, absolutely.
the entire school seemed to have bunked off that day, and literally. The whole theater was just packed with kids from my school, and
Oh my
it
God.
was like the scene in Gremlins when they're all in the theater, and it's just like anarchy, and it just, oh my God, if I ever want to like get myself out of depressive funk, I think of that 4 hours in that cinema as just being like I was never happier, which
Oh, that's so beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
I wish I could have seen that in theaters. That's amazing. What year would that have been? Gremlins. Wait, was this Gremlins or Gremlins 2?
The first Gremlins would have been 85. Yeah.
85. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's 85. Yeah. You can still see Gremlins in theater at Music Box in Chicago.
Yes.
They do. In fact, I took a certain young Dan Ronan to the Gremlins.
Oh,
Gremlins Die
really?
Hard. Well, I say I took him, I invited him, and then he didn't reply. And then when the lights went up at the end, I saw him sitting at the front with his mate. So we watched
Oh
it
my gosh.
together, but not together. Anyway, so
Oh
that's
my gosh, that's amazing.
movie sequel titles. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. And yeah,
Hmm.
you would have to you would probably have to apply to like the Wayans brothers or whoever it is that cranks out the Too Fasts, right, to get that dream job.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
I,
have
I
to work on that.
I feel like the new Millennium one is you get the original movie title, you throw a colon at the end, and then you do the next chapter name, right? Like that's the Avengers thing.
Oh yeah, with Endgame.
That's like the latest in sequel naming technology.
Yeah. Well, we also got I would say like the bleakest movie sequel title of all time is Wall Street Money Never Sleeps.
Oh god, I mean, who? They did a lot
It's a
of
real bummer. It's a real bummer.
money never sleeps. Oh my god! But the guy who created the sequel title did sleep, evidently, after about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Anywho, all right.
Um oh, another good one. Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. So it's
Oh,
Mamma Mia colon Here We Go Again.
that
And
is
it's like that all the stars aligned on that
yeah,
one.
that's a genius one.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Sadly, the film was not. But anywho, let's continue because this is the one I'm really excited about.
Uh-oh.
Because this is young Mark coming to America. So you've got I'll talk this one out and then you finish it off.
Okay.
The theme restaurant Zenith of the 90s, early 2000, and most specifically Mars 2112 at Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg. Please explain that
Mhm.
because I got thoughts on this one.
Oh my gosh. So this one is really special to me. Growing up in the 90s, of course, Rainforest Cafe was a really special place that, I mean, I only went a handful of times. That was definitely a special occasion restaurant. But when this new restaurant, Mars 2112, came to Woodfield, That was in the year 2000. Actually, apparently, unbeknownst to me at the time, there was one in Times Square in New York. I didn't know anything about New York at the time, other than what I'd seen in Home Alone 2. So when Mars 2112 came out, the Chicago Tribune ran a special feature on this restaurant, and I was completely outer space obsessed. As was my brother, and we got really, really, really hyped up about this restaurant when you arrived. So it was a big deal. We went out there one day. It was far from, it's a long drive from where we grew up. So you get there, and there is a flight simulator that you go through that actually takes you to the main dining area.
Oh my God.
I might be misremembering this a little bit, but I remember the flight simulator getting us in, and then you're in this universe in which we have like rust-colored foam boulders, and all the servers are wearing, futuristic like Martian gear. The menu was incredible. I definitely ate chicken tenders because that's what I ate at every restaurant.
Were they called like Martian tenders or?
Most likely, yeah. I actually took a look at the menu. I found the menu online, and the menu itself is wildly inconsistent. Some of the foods have space-themed names. Like we've got Starfield salmon and terrestrial tilapia, Magellan mozzarella sticks, cosmic chaos cheesecake. But then you get to the vegetarian section of the menu, and they just completely gave up. We have vegetarian sandwich and eggplant lasagna. So the menu, I get a huge kick out of the menu. Looking back, I just remember it being this like just awe-inspiring, like all-encapsulating experience. And I really wish I could go back. It is no more. It closed in 2001.
Yeah, and it was like 2001, aptly enough, is when the space restaurant died, which is weird. It seems like too big to fail, right? How did that just...
Right?
Maybe it was run by gangsters or something. I mean, that restaurant could not fail. So did you go... Let me ask you this. Did you go there as kind of like... As a fan, as like, oh, this is going to be awesome, or were you going there as kind of a cynical teenager, like, oh my God, this is going to be so bad, we're going to laugh about it, like, because you've got it in your lap. Like, what was the attitude going in?
The attitude was extremely earnest. Like, this is going to change my life. I wasn't. I was. How old was I? I was probably like 12, 13. I was not yet in like a. I wasn't quite at the age where I was self-aware, or like would have been self-conscious. Like we were just like unabashedly excited.
The joy.
About you?
The joy of life had not been extinguished from you at that early time.
Exactly. We had a great time. It was the best. There was a laser show. Wait, did you go to theme restaurants? You were saying this was like your intro to the U.S. Mark?
Well, I mean, when I left England was still very sort of drab post-Thatcher-esque. So in England, you had a fish and chip shop, which I don't know if you've ever been to England, you've seen them. There's nothing Hollywood about a fish and chip shop, trust me. And McDonald's I remember when McDonald's opened and people would flock to it as this amazing American thing that seemed optimistic and upbeat. And then when I came to America, was the first time I saw a food court. I'd never seen one of those before, but coming from a small village to a big city, I used to go to Planet Hollywood every week. Like, it was a thing to do. Yeah, oh my God. To sit underneath Arnold Schwarzenegger's jacket and eat a cheeseburger just seemed like so glamorous and American. But I did them all. I mean, you remember, you're talking about Chicago in the early 2000s, so you've got the Planet Hollywood. I never did like Rainforest Cafe for whatever reason. We did De Bevics, again, just too American to not enjoy it. I used to take every English person to De Bevics and not tell them, the hook kind of thing, and just see But the problem is
Oh my
the
gosh.
problem is English people are so rude anyway that they didn't even like see it as
You
funny.
didn't notice?
They were just like, oh, this is like every restaurant I've ever been in England.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about Exotica.
Yeah.
That one, that's a real throwback.
Went
That was
to
like a kind of shocking, like fun. Yeah.
yeah, we went to Jordan's, but that was really boring. I don't know if you ever went to Jordan's.
I never went there.
Yeah, it was just like trying to be a restaurant, you know, and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
really have to try hard. The best 90s, the 2000 thing. So when my dad visited me, I took him to New Orleans because I thought he might like New Orleans because it's still
Oh,
got
I love New
character and
Orleans.
grit and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We and they you know they always say you can't go wrong with New Orleans food, right? It's like amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
We went wrong in every conceivable way. We didn't eat one decent meal in 4 days in New Orleans. And the best one of the
Oh,
whole
Mark.
lot, me and my 60-year-old dad went in the Fashion Cafe, which was the
Oh
one.
my gosh.
Yeah, it had a Fashion Cafe. I've still got. I used to collect matchbooks, and I've still got Fashion Cafe matchbooks. Um,
No. I
uh,
never went.
well, Naomi Campbell was not in there that day. In fact, no one was except me and my dad eating horrible food and
Oh, wow.
thinking, why are we in the Fashion Cafe? And that's just. I always remember that from New Orleans because New Orleans has got like 87,000 famous old restaurants. We were just like, oh, this one looks cool.
Yeah. Like it's hard to miss.
Yeah.
It's hard to miss.
And then being a Chicagoite, did you do the Bubba Gump on Navy Pier? Because I've never been in that one, and
You
that's a
know,
Survivor.
I feel like I went as a teenager or maybe as an early 20 something, and I can't really remember it very well. That I mean, I went to Navy Pier many times, loved Navy Pier, but only ate at Bubba Gump maybe like once.
Hmm. Yeah, I've never been in that one, and it seems to survive. But I mean, how is it not going to on
Hmm.
Navy Pier? So I guess I don't know. Oh,
Right,
okay.
right.
Well, so yeah, I was kind of thinking you were going around these as a cynical teenager, laughing at them all, but
No, no, I just
aimlessly did
loved
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna come to one that hasn't come up yet, and we've done quite a few episodes now, so I'm excited for this one. The Far Side comic that seems too old for a young lass like Brigid to get into at an early age. So what's going on there?
Yeah, I should have asked my mom. Because I honestly cannot remember why we had the Far Side collections, but we had I think at least two or three collections at home that I was trying to remember the other day, like where that even stemmed from. But I do remember from a pretty young age, probably 5, 6 years old, just laying on my stomach on the floor on the weekends looking through the Far Side. And I think initially, you're reading it when you're that young. I think I initially was just kind of enjoying the pictures and like not trying to think too hard about what anything meant. And then, got to an age where I was trying to figure out like what made these like comics funny.
Huh.
Yeah, it was just very pervasive. We read the Far Side all the time. One of the ones that's always really stuck in my head is the one where the guy is leaving a restaurant bathroom, and over the doorway as he's exiting the bathroom, there's a flashing sign that says "Didn't wash hands." I remember that kind of haunting me at restaurants, being like, okay, better wash my hands because there might be some sort of like alert outside the door telling everyone else I didn't wash my hands.
Oh.
Or another really good one was the ketchup bottle horror movie. It's a bunch of little ketchup bottles in the audience at a movie theater watching a horror movie in which another ketchup bottle is broken open, and the dad ketchup bottle is, what is he saying? He's like, don't worry, that's not real ketchup, to his son.
Wow, you really got a hold of some of these at an impressionable
Yeah,
age.
I was digging. But that's one of those I haven't thought about it for a long time, but I just read The Far Side a lot. We were really into comics. I mean, Calvin and Hobbes as well. Some Foxtrot. Definitely read the comics every day in the Chicago Tribune. But The Far Side, I would say, is one that I think has maybe a great influence on me without me even really realizing it until recently.
I did Far Side was late for me, obviously coming to America in the late
Yeah.
'90s. But I was doing some research today, and it only came out last week. There was almost a live action movie version of Far
Oh,
Side.
really?
Yeah, and there's pictures of people dressed looking like the characters in the thing, and it's just
Oh
like
my gosh.
I remember, though, I'm kind of glad it didn't get made because I remember
Yeah.
The Onion had a live action movie and it was one of the worst things I have ever seen. I mean,
The
just
Onion did?
The Onion had a live action movie that is so abysmal you wouldn't even believe how bad
Really?
it is. So it's good that Far Side never made it because I think it would have
Oh
just been the
man.
same. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
was just an interesting thing. I mean, that's literally broke last week, but you can see the pictures online of it. And then I
That's
know
crazy.
yeah, I mean, maybe they'll get some footage. I don't know if they just did screen pictures, right? Because that's how you
Hmm.
start a movie. But anyway, we can dig her on that. But there was another
Yeah.
thing. So I was looking at some, interesting Gary Larson facts, and there was this thing. This will certainly appeal to fans of high humor. Um, Gary Larson once was asked to write a press release explaining one of his cartoons that
Oh my gosh.
nobody got. It
Which
was
one?
it said it was a picture of a cow inevitably, and it was a cow with some tool presenting an assortment of low tech gadgets she's built. It says here, and the caption just simply read "cow tools," and no one got the joke. Um, it was they bombarded people saying, "What the hell does this even mean?" And Gary Larson released an official statement that came out in all the papers that said the cartoon was meant to be an exercise in silliness. Larson goes
Oh
on to
my
say, I
gosh.
regret that my fondness for cows, combined with an overactive imagination, may have carried me beyond what is comprehensible to the average Far Side reader. So he was clearly incensed about it because he was insulting his
Oh
own
my
readers.
gosh.
But that's hilarious to me. It's like America is
People were
so.
mad.
Yeah, we don't understand this, but it's surreal humor, for God's sake.
Oh
Hilarious to
wow.
me. Hilarious to me that he had to do that. Alrighty.
Wow.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit here, and we're going to talk
Hmm.
about because it's British. I'm going to dwell on this one for 2 minutes,
Uh-oh.
but kick me off, Christine producer, if I get too bogged down in it. So one of your selections was Sally Forever, which is my
Mm,
favorite comedy of probably last year, or was it the year before, starring Julia
mm.
Davis. I mean, to me, that takes the sort of uncomfortableness element to even way past Larry David and Curb to another
Oh yeah.
level. So,
Hmm.
so what is it with Sally Forever that's got you?
Oh man, this one really took me by surprise. This was my introduction to Julia Davis. I wasn't really familiar with her, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And I was thinking about it, trying to figure out what I loved so much about that show. And I was thinking about the difference between watching live comedy versus watching a comedic movie or show. And, watching a live performance is very much like, to me, like watching a high wire act. It's very anxiety inducing in a fun way, but I get really anxious when I'm watching live comedy because it can fail at any moment. It can go horribly wrong at any moment. Um, and it's always such an experiment.
Yeah.
I think that sort of anxious viewing experience is really, really hard to capture. That like thrill is really hard to capture in film or television comedy. And that's not to say that, you know, movies or TV comedy is inferior. I feel like it's just a different sort of enjoyment that I derive from them. So I think Sally Forever was one of those rare instances in which I did get that anxiety or thrill from watching the show that I get from watching live comedy, because it was so far out there. I mean, it's, you know, she's fearless in a way that really makes me wonder, like, where's this going? You know, you get this sense of spinning out of control and you don't know where it's going to stop. So, I mean, that show it's like nightmarishly gross, which normally doesn't really appeal to, like, you know, I've never really been into like gross humor. I never was growing up. I feel like I appreciate it a little more now. And I think what she does with it is she takes it to such an extreme that it becomes absurd or surreal. It's like we've completely exited reality. And I really appreciated that about the show. Like, there's just no ceiling on it.
Yeah, there definitely is no ceiling on that. The scene with the director who she strong arms into giving her a bigger part. Oh my God, look that up, people. I'm not even going to describe it.
No, absolutely not.
But
or the seafood buffet.
My favorite scenes are the interactions with the woman in the office trying to get off with her. No, hang on. Am I thinking of the wrong thing? So her husband is Julian Barrett. He's in Sally Forever, right? Or no?
Yeah, he is. He ends up getting together. Oh wait, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. Okay,
but he is in it.
But there's
the coworkers. She's flirting with both.
Yeah, the flirting coworker. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh, she's so good.
Yeah. Another genius comedic actress. I can never remember her name, but she was in like Alan Partridge stuff as well. But yeah. So
she's great.
Sally Forever. All right, so we're going to skip forward a little bit here because we've got some other ones that are really good, and I keep concentrating too much on the early ones. Julio Torres' Fables, the trials and dramas of his favorite shapes like Gustavo. So this is like an Instagram thing, which for an old man like me is this like other world of like, I'm seriously just getting into Instagram now. So I did a bit of research. So Julio Torres was an SNL writer, but didn't really get on too well there because he was way too surreal and creative and innovative is what I'm reading, but maybe you can explain more.
Well, I actually watched his special sometime last year. Where had I first heard about him? Maybe honestly did you watch Los Spookies on... It's HBO. It's a really good. It's Fred Armisen, Julio Torres, and Ana Fabrega. But I watched his special, My Favorite Shapes, and that's when I started looking at, his Twitter or I don't even really use social media, but I absolutely loved his special, and he posts stuff on the thing I screenshotted for you. Is one of my favorites from his Instagram. But Julio Torres, he's definitely one of my absolute favorites. His humor, as you said, is very surreal. He has all of these kind of fantastical little fables that he writes about his anthropomorphic characters, whether it's a shape or Krisha, one of his characters, looks like a little potato. And he's very, very out there, very, otherworldly. But the best part is that, these kind of fantastical aesthetics are juxtaposed against very kind of like petty squabbles or drama. I just love what he does. It's really, really unique. And the Gustavo one that I sent to you is one of my favorites. It's like a little frog with a crown. You kind of have to see it, but yeah, I would highly recommend his special.
So that's a reminder to the listeners. Go to youthinkthat'sfunnypodcast.com, where you will find links to these new acts of comedic genius. You need to go there and look them up. All right, let's go to the next one, which is kind of weirded me out. So person names that wouldn't really work for a cat slash dog. Things like Anne David. So you're not walking around thinking, what is a name that really wouldn't work for a cat or a dog? What does this one mean?
That's one of my favorite games. I don't know where it came from, but I think one, I guess, theme that I'm noticing, when I came up with the list, I was kind of just choosing at random, but I realized, I think hearkening back to The Far Side, and then Julio Torres, where we were just talking about like these kind of, I guess, relationships between humans and animals, and anything related to anthropomorphism. So with cats and dogs, I like to wonder what human names just wouldn't work. So something like, and why. So like, for example, if I met a Labradoodle named Lucy, that like kind of seems like that works for a dog. But if I met a Labradoodle named Lisa, I feel like Lisa doesn't really work. Other names that don't really work would be like Anne, David, Jennifer, Trish, like a dog named Trish. I don't know. It's just a game that I play that I like to think about sometimes.
Have you worked out the criteria that you're mentally processing here, or is this just like a personal?
I don't know. Thing? I think maybe it's just a personal thing. I mean, Mark. Like, have you ever met a dog named Mark?
No, actually, I haven't. Actually, this is funny. So I know someone through people, and she has a cat named Phil. And that's just bizarre.
That's good.
And it comes...
Isn't that weird?
It comes from Futurama, is what it came from.
Okay.
But yeah, a cat named Phil to me is just bizarre. Like...
I love it.
You've probably, obviously you're probably familiar with the whole Cats, like the movie and everything. And I love that poem, the naming of cats, because I do stare at my cats and I think, what do they call themselves? Like, they're never going to tell me.
That's a good question. What are your cats' names?
Well, like we have one called Rumba and Nash, and they're foster. Oh. We adopt them. So I'm anti-changing the names, so they never get renamed. So they were named by other people,
Okay.
So yeah, I love the naming of cats poem, and I love the whole concept of trying to figure out what the cat would call themselves. That's hilarious to me, because I'll never tell.
I feel like that's added a whole layer now to the game. I'm going to be thinking about that now.
Yeah. Maybe the name that doesn't work is the name they're giving themselves. Anywho. All right, let's get towards the wrap up, because as usual I have completely gone over. So let's talk about like the genesis of your sense of humor. Like, how did Brigid Ronan get her sense of humor? Where's it coming from?
Well, I am at the young end of a very large family, like extended family. Growing up in the Chicago area, my mom is one of 9 siblings. She grew up in Andersonville, and I had tons and tons of cousins. And when we were kids, most of them lived in the Chicago area. Now we're more spread out. But I would say, in part, the sense of humor came from getting together with the family all the time. Huge family, and I was very quiet, very shy, and I would just kind of listen. And my family's really funny. Like, it was all, kind of about banter. And I would just be listening. So definitely, in part from the family, I would say that have a like kind of a dark sense of humor, kind of that like Irish American Catholic morbid sense of humor, things that I get from my family. And then being kind of always drawn to fairy tales and anything fantastical and otherworldly, I think kind of set me up to be interested in surreal or absurd humor, being obsessed with movies, anything that was kind of a portal to another world. We watched a lot of good comedy television. We never had cable growing up, so we were very limited to the Chicago, like the network television. We watched a lot of I Love Lucy, and also a lot of Keeping Up with Appearances. We would watch that show with my mom. I hadn't thought about that one in a long time. But watched a lot of comedy. There was this one summer that in the TV guide, which was on the back page of the Tempo section in the Chicago Trib, I Love Lucy was slotted for 3 a.m. I think on like channel 50 or something. And we spent an entire summer like trying to stay up late enough to watch I Love Lucy. Determined it never worked. I was probably like 8 years old, but always, loved comedy. I don't know. Yeah, there's so many influences. The Far Side and Calvin and Hobbes, as we were talking about. Yeah. So a whole hodgepodge.
So, do you think part of it might have been? Were you sort of like I always viewed myself as a very sophisticated humorist. That's why I'm the arbiter of it. But I got lucky because I really had full access from an early age. Like I could stay up late, I could watch stuff, and I feel like if you do that with a kid, they're just gonna accelerate, And maybe were you accelerating because you were around adults who just weren't? We're just letting you consume whatever came your way kind of thing?
Well, it was a mix. I think that's interesting. I think on one hand, I was hearing, adult banter, and that's, so I was listening to adult, adult humor and kind of trying to digest it as a young kid because I was at the youngest end of the family. But on the other hand, our movie and television watching was pretty strictly regulated. So, but the outcome of that was that my brother and I would try to find ways around it. We became so obsessed with movies because, we weren't allowed to see PG-13 movies or R movies. So it, it became this obsession. We want to see the good movies. I would say that my fixation is in part because of that.
Okay. That reminds me, I'm going to link to Dan's Wayne's World piece.
That's
we got a link to that. Okay.
That is very much,
That's it explained in a nutshell. Well, how do these influences that you have manifest? I mean, can you point to something and go, well, this is me letting this out?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question. I mean, I would say I have a hard time answering that question because I feel like my entire kind of worldview or way of digesting the world around me is through humor. So it kind of feels like that is all of me in a way.
I was going to say, completely pervasive. Yeah, it is completely pervasive.
Yeah. Okay. It's hard to point to.
All right. Cool. I didn't know if you were the office crack up, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, not in the remote world.
Yeah. Working hard or hardly working. It's Brigid. All right. Okay. All right. We'll leave it as completely pervasive. How about that? So
completely pervasive.
Okay. So I sent you a couple of links, trying to guess whether I could. I was pretty sure I could get you because it was such a good match. The first one was a Catherine Tate link, which is one of my favorite pieces. It's a character she had called Nan Taylor, who was so like my Nan, God rest her soul, that it was always going to be. It was always going to be a thing, but did you like Nan
Oh my
Taylor? Because that was a
gosh.
very big Catherine Tate character.
Yeah, and I can't believe I had never heard of it.
Hmm.
Because there's so much good stuff around that time. Yeah, I'll say I watched these right before we spoke tonight.
Yeah.
And I was really blown away by the title sequence. It feels very early aughts in the best way.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a riot. I need to see more of. So that was a recurring character, right?
Yeah, Catherine Tate had like her own, it was the mega hit
Hmm.
sketch show at the time. And so she had a whole
Hmm.
bunch of characters sort of come out of it. Nan is my favorite. She did a teenage schoolgirl one that I think every person of my age
Oh my gosh.
was just like, holy crap, this was every teenage English schoolgirl ever.
Oh
And
my gosh.
they took that one the whole way to where she did a sketch with Tony Blair for part of Comic Relief. So I'll send you more links to that. But I was
Oh my
kind of
gosh,
thinking
please do.
if you like Julia Davis, I'm thinking Catherine Tate's gonna be
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Because
Love her.
they weren't like sunny characters; they were just kind of good working class ones. So, all right, cool, yay! And then the second one, I thought, because you've got this surreal lust for the surreal a mile wide. I sent you some Reeves and Mortimer, which is I'm always going to send that to people. Sorry, that's going to be every
Oh
week.
my gosh.
And they were kind of like, so you've got the avant-garde of surreal, like with Monty Python, and then Spike Milligan, who felt Python ripped him off. And then there was this huge revival of it when alt
Mhm.
comedy came out, and Reeves and Mortimer just blew everyone. They were the ultimate, like, are either going to love this or you are going to hate it.
Oh
So I
my
figure you're
gosh.
going to I figure you're going to love it person.
I loved it. I loved it. And I love that you sent me two clips that were so different. Um, the Catherine Tate felt, very specific to British culture.
Hmm.
And then the Reeves and Mortimers, you're on another planet.
Yeah.
It looks like the set to me looked like if the 1993 internet was turned into an actual room and we walked into it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. I
Yeah.
want to watch more of their stuff now too.
Oh, I
And yeah,
got a
you
million.
mentioned they're kind of a Mighty Boosh precursor, which
Yeah.
which I can totally see.
Yeah. Well, they Reeves and Mortimer was just this bizarre mind fart of just surrealism that just worked
Hmm.
for whatever. They did recurring characters as well, so but yeah, it was just full on. I'll send you some more links. Anyways, yay, we won that. We won this week. Like, I've had a couple of
One.
defeats in recent weeks, but we're good.
Uh
I think I'm getting better. Anyway, so let's wrap this up. I am over time as per bloody usual, but we're going to talk about what Bridget is up to right now on one specific project, I believe.
Ooh, what am I up to? Well, I'm working on a couple of writing projects right now that will probably take me a million years to finish. But just graduated grad school. Actually, it's been a little over a year now. I feel like COVID has been this weird. I have no concept of how time works anymore. But yeah, just working on my own writing, and then also involved with an organization called Ronan's Reel, which we started actually in memory of my brother Dan. A couple of his friends from growing up, like from grade school, high school, and I founded this organization that is really celebrating Dan's movie obsession. So we've been talking about that, just the pervasive fixation on movies. Dan was a huge movie lover, and we actually had pre-COVID been teaming up with the music box to show movies at their theater and raise money to put towards addiction treatment and prevention. So we did some virtual events during COVID, which we were really thrilled that the community was super supportive during COVID, and did some movie nights. But we are really hoping this summer to get back to the music box.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I miss the movie theaters so much. Oh my gosh, really miss them.
Yeah. For movie people, this has been the worst year. Not just missing the theater, but missing the output as well, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like everything. I mean, other things other things have sort of soldiered on, music and stuff. At least you still create it, but there's not even any creation going on in movies. So yep. All right. Well, we'll have a link to Ronan's reel on there, and
thanks, Mark.
And as usual, the Lincoln Lodge will be involved in these things. So, alrighty, I think we can wrap it up. I am only 15 minutes late. So only 50% over time this week, Mark. Well done.
Oh, that's not too bad.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, Brigid, for joining us. This was most fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Christine. And thank you to the Lincoln Lodge. I love the Lodge so much, and I can't wait to get there, hopefully this summer.
Can't wait to see you again. This has been...
Absolutely.
This has been You Think That's Funny podcast. I have totally and completely forgotten my outro yet again. So let's just go to the jangly guitar music. Thank you very much, Brigid.
Thank you.